as a startup, even if you are a very small company, the first thing you need to get in place is what are the pillars, the ethics. What will you never do? What will you always do? What will you do even when nobody else is watching? These are fundamentally important. Everything else can be hired and trained. This has to be grown.
Building a company culture is like crafting a legacy. It requires consistent effort, a clear vision and unwavering values. But what is company culture, you would ask? It is intangible elements like values, ethics and purpose that makes great companies stand apart from good companies. Take Zoho's example. By focusing on nurturing talent, fostering collaboration and rooting its practices in strong values, Zoho has shown how a consciously built culture can shape a company's outlook, drive its success, and create lasting impact beyond business. Joining us today is Rajendran Dandapani, a founding member of Zoho Corporation and a business solutions evangelist. Raj brings vast expertise in conceiving and nurturing creative concepts to full-fledged software applications. He is also the president at Zoho Schools of Learning. Thank you so much for speaking with us and welcome to the show, Rajendran.
Thank you.
So, we're talking so much about small companies and emerging startups. They are so engrossed in their daily operations in building a viable business that they perhaps aren't thinking about culture. Do you think an intangible thing as culture should be an important piece of the puzzle for small companies, emerging startups at the word go?
Right off the bat, you hit the nail on the head. Culture, I think, is far more important than any other differentiating factor. It could be technology, it could be the domain you're in. Beyond all this, culture plays a very important role. In fact, when I look back and meet the people in my team and my company, I can't help but wonder, it's an everyday miracle that work even gets done. Because when you look at the background of a person, where they come from, when you look at their desires and dreams, what they want to achieve in life, and when you look at their specific skill sets, it's one chaotic cauldron.
No two people are the same.
No two people are the same. And when they all come together, unified by a motivating purpose, something that gives them an opportunity to be larger than life, something that can help them leave a legacy behind. The culture is the only possible glue that can bring them all together to the same table, let them discuss in a civil way, and probably hope to achieve something that individually they can't do. So even as a startup, even if you are a very small company, the first thing you need to get in place is what are the pillars, the ethics. What will you never do? What will you always do? What will you do even when nobody else is watching? These are fundamentally important. Everything else can be hired and trained. This has to be grown.
And imbibed.
And imbibed from right up top.
So it's top down.
Yes.
So, it sounds very good. No two people are the same. But why do companies need to build a culture? Doesn't it automatically fall into place? Or is it not something which, you understand, this is how it goes, or should you not leave that to chance? Should you not leave that to interpretation? Should you spell it out?
You can't leave that to chance, but you can't spell it out. There have to be guardrails, there have to be guidance, but there has to be enough elbow room, an open mind for you to bring in cultures from varying dimensions and directions. It's almost like Darwin's theory of evolution. There were some basic guidelines put in place. Survival of the fittest was one of them perhaps. But along the way, the explosion of the variety of different approaches to the same thing. They say there were 5,000 different eyes that developed, 5,000 different ways visual input could be processed, and each of them served a purpose. So you should not spell things out, but you can't leave it to chance.
I get bigger and bigger, and maybe there's an inorganic acquisition and assimilation, and as I'm growing, how do I keep that culture alive? Because again, no two people are the same. These set of people learned with me, we built the company, now it's become so much bigger, I got to get more people in. So as you're growing and you're scaling, how do you keep that foundation of culture in your company?
Which is why I said you need to embrace it with an open mind. Zoho itself is not the company it started as 28 years ago. Much has changed. But there are a few things that haven't changed, thankfully, that we won't allow to change. You can also structure the environment, structure the messaging protocols between team members and from management downwards to have a non-verbal impact on what the culture should be. Take the office campus itself, for example. We have labs, we have studios, we have work areas, we have play areas, we have classrooms, we have conference rooms. We do not have a manager cabin.
Not one cab?
Not one. We do not have a CEO cabin. And when the building reflects your culture, the products you build reflect your building. By the way, that's not me, that's Conway's law. 1960s Silicon Valley engineer, he said, the kind of products a kind of team puts out reflects the kind of buildings they live in. That transparency and the flatness of the hierarchy.
And the openness.
And the openness. In most companies, you can't walk directly to the CEO and ask for something. Happens here. Every week, we have an open house. Right from the coffee doesn't have enough juice in it, all the way to what's our strategy for AI. We encourage anonymity. Right? So these things, you shape and lay the skeletal structure on top of which each team member, each group head can create their own little kingdom, little style or sub-style of how the culture should be. But the overall constitution of the company is guided all along. These are not tangible.
We are going to discuss how a culture impacts your goodwill and the optics through the outer world, but I want to understand how it affects the team. And does a consciously cultivated culture promote innovation, free thinking?
Innovation and invention, we often mix up between these two. Invention is finding something that didn't exist, thinking and so on. But innovation is bringing it to the masses as probably a viable product or a service or an idea, but it has to be useful. Identifying that something happens is probably a scientific invention, but to make it a product, make it really useful to the masses is the innovation bit. And invention doesn't really take teams, doesn't take too many false dead ends, but when you try to innovate, the humanity out there is sweetly and perennially irrational. A very good product might bomb.
You fail.
You fail. A so-so product can surprise us by its success. So you need to detach yourself, almost the Bhagavad Gita here, you need to detach yourself from the result, but ensure you give your 100%. So how do we do that? We celebrate effort.
That is because you have a culture to do that.
Yeah, we have a culture to celebrate effort.
And not success.
Not success. Because success is not in our hands. Success is in the hands of the irrational masses out there. We respect them, but we also know how irrational they are. And today's success can turn into tomorrow's flop, we know that too. So instead we look inwards and we say, have we given our best? Could this have been the greatest effort we could have put given the time, the resources and the abilities that we had at that point of time? And if we did that, we award that person even before the product goes out and gets ready for public evaluation. And hence it's almost that detachment also brings a sense of cooperation. Rather than compete with another team or with another person in your own team, you end up thanking them for the support they gave you. So employee to peer thankfulness, we call it. So if we can bring these, the idea generation and the innovation starts happening as a result, as a side effect of this. Beyond that, the product itself, the user interface of the product, the features that you have in the product. For example, we have a product called Connect. Zoho Connect is a employee to employee intranet where people can ask questions, get answers, post updates and so on. We chose to build an anonymous poster into that product. It reflects our culture because within our company we use that product, and we want to encourage everybody, including that shy but smart person hiding behind the screen, to comment about something that's been posted. People who are afraid of retribution, who are afraid of
being called
out, what will they think? Or even such a dumb comment, should I even post it? What they do, they wear that mask. It's a simple button, you tap it, it becomes a mask. And nobody can trace who you are, and they start respecting the message rather than the messenger. So what goes into your product also reflects your culture. It starts from there. Openness, sharing, democracy and the right to complain are fundamental to our culture, and they leak into our products.
So you can actually touch and feel it?
Yes.
Zoho has been known for being being able to nurture talent. You have your School of Learning. Can you talk a little more about this, how you nurture talent, and how is it different from regular schools and colleges? And how does it sink in with your culture and your values of nurturing talent?
We started Zoho Schools when we were not this big. We were about 600, 700 employees at that time, and we weren't able to attract good talent. And the talent that came to us from conventional colleges around the countryside, they didn't seem to have what they claimed to have in the certificate.
Which is everybody's problem, right?
Unfortunately. When they said they were a BE or a BTech in computer science, and we gave them a strategic question about product development, they bombed. And that was when we realized the way computer science is taught at schools and colleges is not how it needs to be taught. So we wondered whether we could make a small dent in that universe, whether we can bring some small change. And we started talking about it. We ran a poll actually inside our company asking, hey, what you're doing right now in the company and what you prepared for as a career, your college degree. Correlation? Is it related? Most of them came back and said, I found out what I am good at only after I started working. Or they said, the only real learning I ever got in my life was the learning I got on the job. So we thought, can we put these pieces together? There were many employees within our company who wanted to gift knowledge to the next generation, pay it forward. They said, I have benefited a lot. I want to help the next generation. So we attracted those people, created a small group of students. We went to a nearby school. We pitched the idea. Most of them were planning to get employed somewhere because they didn't have the wherewithal to study higher education. So today it is a 2-year program, 1 year in the classroom, highly interactive, immersive. And the second year they become an intern in one of the various teams in the company. From day one they are paid a stipend, they are not charged money. We do not mark attendance, which means you have to attend a class only when you feel there is something real to take away from it. We do not conduct examinations because we think exams are an artificial high pressure scenario created. So nobody takes exams after they enter work. Every day is a soft evaluation. There is no free time and then suddenly high pressure time. So we abolished exams, and 20 years, this is the 20th year, we have been able to attract good talent. And many small companies come to us and say, hey, this looks like a very good model, how do I do it? Can I sponsor something? Can I recruit from Zoho Schools? All these questions come up. And to them all, my answer is, if you're ready to wait, if you have the right educationist, and if you're ready to disregard some of the myths that society has imprinted on us. One myth being, hey, you're a girl, if you need to get married, you need to have a degree. India still fights against such myths. Or think about this one, hey, you are okay at Zoho, but what if you someday have to leave Zoho and join some other company? Won't they ask for a degree? We are not associated with any university, so we don't offer degrees. We offer employment instead. But this question comes up. And the answer to that is, if you've spent time at Zoho, what the interviewer in that company will be asking for is, what did you do here? Not, what did you do before joining Zoho? Yeah. So these are some myths that I want to debunk and encourage small, medium, large companies to adopt this model.
But how? Because see, yours is a technology company, so you have trained people in the technology sphere. Say I have an automotive parts company, and I have to train people in this work. Now, my fear is that I'm going to keep someone, invest in the training, and that person is going to leave. So does it work for smaller companies?
Two things. 2,600 years ago, Aristotle is supposed to have said, to learn the things that we need to do, we need to learn by doing. He didn't know technology. He didn't know automotive parts. But he made this sweeping statement. So you need that accommodative mentor. That mentor, the person who has that almost infinite patience and true love to imbibe in you, to give to you what they know. If you can catch those people, that's my answer for the first part. Zoho by itself, its exit ratio, attrition number is almost ridiculously low, very, very low. And within that number, if we look at how many of them from Zoho Schools of Learning, it's nearly zero. And why? When we look at the students and we look at the alumni and we talk to them, we realize that without telling us, they are telling us that they don't see this as a company, as a place to work. Instead, they see this as a temple of learning. This is where they learn the ropes. This is not a business dealing that they are doing every month. I come here, I put my sweat and toil, you pay me your salary, and next month if somebody pays me more, I move on. Here they see this as a lifelong, this is Guru Shishya. This is not employer-employee. And that has been one of our unexpected but sweet consequences of running something like this.
Most tech companies start in the Silicon Valley, but Zoho started in a smaller place, and perhaps it was because there was a belief that development, starting something new, and thriving should not be for just the tier 1 cities or something like that. We should be connected to our roots, and in rural development and empowerment as well. So is this thesis right? Is this something that Zoho believes in? And
yes.
Does it matter to small companies who may be again based out of smaller places? And why I'm saying is because technology is now enabling even smaller companies in a village or anywhere
yes.
to innovate, to reach a larger market. Is it important to be connected to your roots, your values, and your local communities?
28 years ago, when the internet was just getting started, SaaS wasn't even a term, and there was a lot to be benefited simply because of your geography. But over time, the moment connectivity became a given, and we were able to make connections across geographies, we realized that what was more important of these two, whether you want to rub shoulders with people in Silicon Valley, or whether you want to give employees the kind of natural environment they seek, they want to be in the lap of luxury, because in places where we have our offices, the rent is much lower, compared to cities like Mumbai and Delhi. The cost of living itself is low. Yeah? You are close to where you were born, you bump into your teachers, your family, you are able to take care. That's a huge burden these days. The thought of what's Ma doing, what's Pa doing, it's a burden. So if you are able to release all this, you are able to give the employee a much calmer environment, both mentally and emotionally, for them to come up with all their ideas and innovation.
Collaboration is also cited as an important cornerstone for healthy company culture. How does Zoho encourage collaboration? What has been your experience, and how can small companies do this as well? Because everybody has a lot on their plate in a small company, and many a times they may be taking a lot of decisions independently. Is that the right way? How do you build collaboration?
There is this thing about asking for permission versus giving an apology. I am going to do this, may I? Versus, over the weekend I did this.
Sorry.
I hope it's okay. So you must be able to provide a culture to your team, to your colleagues, where they are not afraid of the backlash, what might happen. So fail fast, fail often, fail soon. All three sentences are slightly different, but they are very important. Fail fast. Your failing should be immediate and fast. Fail soon, not before you, don't wait until you build something very large. And fail often, iterations, many iterations. So if you can capture these three, you can succeed in this tough times. How do you create a culture of collaboration? Every cog in your wristwatch has a role to play. You take one out, this stops running. And there is not a single wheel out there that is not needed. So if you can create this is collaboration. Ensure that each person gravitates to what their strength is. Let them create something, but not as an island. The other thing that Zoho has largely benefited from is we eat our own dog food. Zoho runs on Zoho. Zoho's project management tool is what manages the projects in Zoho. Zoho's CRM is what we use to interact with our customers. So if you can bring a sense of dog fooding, trying things yourself first before you put it out, again that will help you in creating that, fostering that collaboration in your team.
Okay. Now there are many companies starting out new, so what advice would you give them? How can they lay the foundation for a meaningful and sustainable culture?
Almost all ideas and approaches and initiatives that were probably needed to live a happy life have all been already discussed. There is nothing new out there. It's all about bringing different pieces in various combinations and trying out something else, right? There's nothing new under the sun is what I would say. So the only differentiating factor would be why are you doing what you are doing, the start with why philosophy, and what holds this disparate gang together. So I would say, irrespective of what domain you are in, whether technology or manufacturing or anything else, you need to stand for something. What does Zoho stand for? Made in India, make for the world. We are proud of our humble roots, and we are equally proud of our almost brash clarion call to the world saying, I can do anything that I set my mind to. So like that, if you can create something that holds your crucial pieces together as a glue and put your nose to the wheel, play the long game, don't look for immediate results, do not tie celebrations to successes from the outside world. These pieces will magically come together and make you succeed. Everything else is trainable, everything else is teachable. These are the pieces that create the basic skeleton on top of which anything can be painted on and results can be seen.
I want to understand what young companies or small companies or emerging startups should avoid so that they do not fall into the toxic company culture we hear so much about. Should culture change with the times? How do you avoid becoming toxic culture company?
Forget about toxic culture. Let me talk about what is toxic about culture. Okay? Stop selling culture. If you are a company and if you have a good culture, let your employees sell it. Let your customers sell it. Sridhar often says our HR should not be a marketing unit. We shouldn't have a careers page where we have bean bags and indoor tennis courts and everything else paraded, and employees, potential employees look at all that and wow. In fact, 15 years ago, Zoho gave an iPhone to every employee. And our intent was the world is going to change and we need to be ready. If we are to build software that will run on our customers' iPhones, we need to know what iPhones are, how to run an app. So experience it. That was the intent.
Not a perk?
Not a perk. That's what happened outside though. In Glassdoor and in so many other such websites, they started saying, hey, iPhone milta hai idhar. That was not the intent. So Sridhar said, I am going to start a crusade. Why you shouldn't join Zoho? Here are 6 reasons. If you are looking for a manager cabin, for example. If you are intent in higher studies and using this as a launch pad, a couple of years of experience at Zoho. If you are interested in working out of a steel and glass building in a skyscraper city like San Francisco, we will never have an office in San Francisco. Take it for granted from us, because we have unsubscribed from the city because of its real estate costs and rental costs. So this is another way of saying attract the right kind of talent, keep the wrong kind of talent away. So do that in your team, because it's okay if you don't get the right guys, but if you end up getting the wrong ones particularly early, you're stuck with them and God save you. What I have shared with you are opinions too. They have worked for us over 28 years. If you are out there, a small company wanting to strike out on your own, wanting to do what Zoho has perhaps done in its time, you need to have your own convictions. Do not copy anybody, including Zoho itself. What works for you, you need to have the gumption, the courage and the stamina to last it out. All the best.
Thank you so much for speaking with us, Rajendran. It was really an eye-opener for a subject which not people understand very closely. They only have judgments about culture. Thank you for explaining to us how important this intangible piece of the puzzle is for smaller companies and emerging startups to really be in it for the long game, to be able to not only scale the businesses but be there for the long term. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. Do come back for more.